Well, good evening, everybody. It is 5:30, so looks like 5:32. So we're going to get started with this meeting, and I'm going to make a couple of remarks, and then let the real professionals take over, the people that know about building and the people that know about homelessness. I'm not an expert in either, but it does so happen that this project is in my district. And so I thought it was appropriate for me to be a part of tonight's meeting. And we just got joined by Supervisor Magzig. He's really on the Board of Supervisors. He's the guy who, I guess you would call him an expert in homelessness, or at least he's the guy that spends a lot of time on homeless issues for the County of Fresno. So I just wanted to give a couple of opening remarks and why we're having this community meeting. When the governor came out with this program, Homekey, a grant application process connected to that, he really, he's reaching for a goal that he wants to achieve, which is to help homeless folks and also increase the number of affordable housing throughout the state of California. If he had a little Achilles heel in this particular program, it was that it was a rush job. And I think our staff in the county and people that are engaged in homelessness, they probably had only 6 weeks from the time that they heard about the program until the time that they had to turn in their application. And if you know government at all, 6 weeks is just very fast. And even in that time, I heard about the project about halfway through. And so it moved so fast, I wasn't even completely up to speed on this particular endeavor on the old Smuggler's Inn in downtown, or in mid-Fresno. So I kind of quickly got myself up to speed, talked to many of the folks that you see here in the panel tonight, and got an idea of what was going on. And I just wanted to add a couple comments tonight. So let me be clear on a couple things. So far, the Board of Supervisors has really only voted to submit the grant application. When you file for a grant for anything, I don't care what it is, a new park, a new sidewalk, or a facility that's going to help affordable housing, it really pays those who decide whether the grant's going to be distributed if the body that wants the grant has a supportive letter. So we sent in a letter of support, and we took a vote to approve to send in the grant. That way, the grant writers know that we're pretty serious about applying for their money. And I would like to say for myself, I think most of you that are watching tonight, the attendees, know where I'm at on homelessness. I came up through the city of Fresno and spent 6 years there. I created the no camping ordinance and took a lot of heat for that for homeless advocates. They thought I was being too tough on homeless. And that, quite frankly, I never felt like that was a fit for me. I didn't feel like I was being tough on homeless, but I just wanted to acknowledge that, you know, businesses and homeowners in the city of Fresno, at that time being a councilman, I felt like our needs were being overlooked. And many of you might feel like that tonight. And I just want to have a good conversation tonight about all of these concerns. So, so why am I here tonight in general supporting of this concept moving forward? Well, first, in the long run, it's really not actually about homelessness. It's about folks who need affordable housing. And there's many of our family and friends who need affordable housing in our community. The amount of housing in California is so dramatically low that it is really painful to watch people suffer. And a lot of times you have families living together, and we find out all of a sudden with a situation like COVID or the extreme conditions that Supervisor Magzig and I saw today up at Shaver Lake, that, you know, a lot of people, we just need more housing. And so this, in the long term, it's an affordable housing concept. But in the short term, the governor is trying to kill two birds with one stone. And he has declared that in the short term, you have to spend a couple of years helping homeless people. And so this thing has been produced about, the whole talk so far has been about homelessness. And our friends down the street, my former colleagues, they sent out a flyer that you probably saw. Looks like this. It's really a kind of a scare tactic. It's homeless. The County of Fresno is bringing homeless to your neighborhood. In my viewpoint, it's really an affordable housing concept development. But according to the governor, it has to be a couple years spent serving the needs of the homeless. Now, we found out just over a week ago that in the last 365 days, we have an additional 1,000 homeless people in our community. And although I now represent the County of Fresno, the bulk of those folks are going to be in the city of Fresno. So that problem is not going away. Nobody's waving a magic wand and making it disappear. So we have to deal with it like adults. And so what that brings us to is this concept that you're going to hear about tonight. And in general, I would just like to say, I don't often agree with the governor, and I disagreed with him earlier today on why this forest fire happened. However, most of the state of California voted for Governor Newsom. He campaigned on cleaning up homeless problems, and now he's our governor, and he has set forth a plan to get many more homeless people off the streets and into housing. And it's a tough lift for him. And then he's also trying to bring in more affordable housing so more of our neighbors can get their own place and find a way of sustaining their lifestyle and their livelihood. And we're challenged on both of those fronts. And this particular grant tries to kill two birds with one stone. And I think it's a pretty decent effort. When it came to our community, there's essentially 3 projects that were applied for these monies. The one that we're going to talk about tonight, which I still call the Smuggler's Inn, okay? Because when I grew up, that was the Smuggler's Inn. Still the Smuggler's Inn to me. And then 2 other projects on Motel Drive that we want to convert into affordable housing. And so tonight you're going to hear about the developer who wants to talk to you about the Smuggler's Inn, and also from our professionals in the world of homelessness. I would just say, and this includes very conservative people like me, we can't just put our head in the sand like an ostrich and think that the homeless problem is just going to go away. It's not going to go away. If we don't watch out, it's actually growing in intensity, thanks to COVID-19 and many other factors. So before you tonight, you're going to hear about an opportunity for our community. And I know in your gut, you're going to be challenged with questions and statements. Some of you might be angry. This is going in too close to your house, and you feel like your house might go down in value or your neighborhood might be impacted. And my response to that would be, all of our neighborhoods are currently impacted. And this problem has impacted almost every aspect of our lives. And I just drove down 41 to get to this Zoom meeting at my office, and it's very apparent what's happening to our community. So I think we have to do some things, and we don't always agree on those things. And council members have made it clear that we're not just going to put the homeless all in downtown Fresno. I think those days are over with. And this is a housing project or a housing opportunity in the middle of town. There are already some providers in the neighborhood. And I also want to add, and I'm kind of stumbling around tonight, my mind has been on Shaver Lake and the tragedy that's been happening there all day. But in this particular project, I want to look you in the eye as your supervisor and let you know that the type of people that are going to be occupying these rooms, which are going to be converted into living homes, are going to be homeless families. For the brief time that it's going to be spent in the world of homelessness, it's going to be serving homeless families. And that's not to insult the other types of homeless, the other homeless demographic that's out on the street, but this opportunity is specifically to serve homeless families. And then beyond that, it's going to serve people that need affordable housing. And look, we're going to great lengths in the County of Fresno. I know formerly in the city, as I served there, to expand our number of units. We've got demands on us from the state to rapidly expand the amount of housing in our county, in our city. And so this is an attempt to check off some of those boxes and get some of that hard work done. Now, I know that many of you have received this flyer, and it's very inflammatory about what's happening here. So all I'm going to ask tonight is that you pay attention to the developer who's going to talk about the project, pay attention to our homelessness experts, and give them a fair shake and a fair shot. I'm going to be on the meeting for a little while, and then I have to drop off because this meeting was also put together fairly rapidly, and I have another appointment in a few minutes. But my chief of staff is going to be here for the duration, and at the end of the mailer or at the end of the program that you received is my contact information. And my promise to you is, as you listen tonight, if you develop questions or statements and you want to talk with me personally, I will have one-on-one conversations with you. I can either meet you. If you don't want to do that because of COVID-19, we can talk on the phone. We can do a personal Zoom meeting. I want to be able to have great conversation with everybody. And look, I know there's going to be concerns. Everywhere we attempt to address this situation, there's going to be concerns. And we have to ask ourselves some real moral questions, which one question to me is, would you be supportive of a wonderful opportunity like this if it was across town? It's going to help people. If it's across town, you would support it, but you're a little bit more reticent when it's in your own backyard, and I get that. But Blackstone Avenue is a transit hub. It's where affordable housing is built into the general plan, and I think that we need to consider that. I personally went and toured the area the other day because I wanted to lay my own eyes on it. That's what I like to do. And it's a real sketchy endeavor today. I mean, right now, it's sketchy out there where Smugglers is. And I would like to add, and I'm going to let the developers do their own speaking for themselves, but they have a good track record in Fresno County and the city of Fresno. They formerly took the Hacienda Inn from a real down and out, knocked down, had the crap kicked out of it type of location to a very well-maintained operation that's really serving a lot of people. So maybe you're that kind of person that you need to see this stuff individually. You could easily go to the Hacienda and take a look around. Just drive by, let your eyes tell you the kind of work that these developers are capable of. However, I'm not going to speak for them, and I'm certainly not an expert in homelessness. We've got better people in both of those situations here on the Zoom call, and I'm going to turn it over to them. But I do want you to know that my chief of staff is on the call, Robert Jeffers. He's going to be here for the whole duration. And if you have questions, we're going to acknowledge every statement, every concern, and we will have conversation with you. The process is really just beginning. We don't even know if we are going to be awarded the grant money or not. We've simply submitted a grant application. And so I think I've talked enough. And so, Sonia, I don't know who's going to take over next after me, but I want to thank everybody and look forward to your comments and your questions.
I'll take it from you. Thank you so much, Supervisor. Katie's going to start us off with the PowerPoint. And, you know, just to get us started, just to provide a little bit of background regarding this project. This is an opportunity to increase much needed affordable housing in our community. And also, the goal for this project is to provide about 150 to 170 new units, housing units, using federal funding that was made available through the state. Should you go on to the next slide? So just to provide a little bit more background regarding Homekey, on July 16th, the governor released information about the availability of funds for this initiative. And the intent is to provide affordable housing in the community. We were actually one of 8 counties for our region, and we wanted to submit as soon as possible to secure an allocation for our region. And so this is targeting individuals that are high risk of having or have been impacted by COVID-19. The County of Fresno, City of Fresno, and the Fresno Housing Authority met right after the notice of funding was released. And we all discussed projects that we thought were potentially viable. From that, we ended up partnering with RH Community Builders and UPholdings to apply for $13.5 million of the allocation available through our region. And the intention is to, again, do that 150 to 170 units. The opportunity required a turnaround of 3 weeks. So that timeline just gives you an idea. It was released on the 16th, but the applications actually opened on the 22nd of July. And then the priority applications were due by the 13th. And the reason we wanted to make that deadline is, again, to reserve funding for our region. So now, you move on to the next slide, just to give you a little bit of information of the involvement from the County of Fresno. In order to apply for this funding, you had to be a governmental entity. It would be the county, city, or housing authority. Also, tribal governments were able to apply. So we partnered with RH and UPholdings for this project. We did focus on the collaboration with the 15 cities that we currently have and looked at some of those priorities that were targeted by the 15 cities just a year ago. A year ago, we actually put a list together of different priorities that we wanted to focus on in order to address the homeless population. And so this is in line with those priorities. And part of the role for the county would be to provide the services and support for this project. And so Katie, if you could take it from there.
Definitely. Thank you, Sonia and Supervisor Brandow, for the introductions and your support on this project. RH Community Builders, led by CEO Wayne Rutledge, President Brad Hardy, and myself, Katie Wilbur, is an organization that is active in our community. We've partnered with Fresno County and service providers to provide housing for the most vulnerable members of our community. In response to the COVID crisis, we opened more than 200 emergency shelter beds within a week of the onset of the crisis. We also believe in giving back to our community. And during the past winter, we opened an emergency shelter that was privately funded by our CEO and our president. We are actively partnering with Fresno County Department of Behavioral Health to provide affordable housing at scattered sites throughout our community to specifically house their clients that are in need. As an organization, we are committed to utilizing best practices for creating healthy, safe, and well-functioning communities that benefit our community as a whole. One example of a project we completed recently was the former Hotel California. Hotel California was once a motel that attracted the worst in the neighborhood. It was an eyesore and a constant source of disturbances. However, in December 2019, we purchased the property and committed to revitalizing the property. As you can see from the before and after pictures, the property has been renovated to be a beautiful community asset. The motel is now operated for the use of Department of Social Services to have a safe, clean, and high-quality motel for their families that are experiencing homelessness. The motel is well equipped with amenities, including Wi-Fi, free laundry, and a computer that allows the families to search for housing and jobs while they're staying with us. The project has been a catalyst for neighborhood improvement, with neighboring complexes improving their facilities as well.
Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me? Yes? Okay.
Yes.
Hi, my name is Jessica Burzak. I'm the president with UPholdings, and we're honored to be partnering with RH and the County of Fresno today. My firm has been developing affordable and supportive housing for almost 20 years now. The picture you're looking at is a project that we developed, new construction in 2014. It's 44 units of housing for people that were experiencing homelessness. And I checked in today with the property manager because I think it's interesting to tell the stories of the individuals. As of today, almost 6 years later, about 35 of those 44 people are the original tenants, which I think goes to say that once you house someone who was experiencing homelessness, they're no longer homeless, because housing is the solution to homelessness. And so we're excited to be partnering with RH today, bringing some of our experience really navigating long-term development vision navigating the financial resources, working with the state, working with HCD to hopefully secure this grant for Fresno County, working alongside the other applicants here in the city of Fresno, and hoping that really all projects are funded and that we can bring significant resources to our city, our county, and our region to make a significant dent in those numbers that Mr. Brandow spoke of in terms of how much homelessness is on the rise in our region. Jody.
Sorry, I was muted. Someone has to do it on every meeting, right? My name is Jody Ketcheside. I'm the vice chair for the Fresno-Madera Continuum of Care. And just for a little bit of context, the Fresno-Madera Continuum of Care is a federally mandated body that works in the community to pull resources together and address homelessness within a particular community. It is also responsible for the oversight and designation of how HUD funding, the Department of Housing and Urban Development funding, is used within the community under the Continuum of Care program funding. So just a little bit of context to who we are. So what we do know is that the average income in a 4-person household is $55,500, and more than 50% of our renters in Fresno are spending more than 35% of their income for rent. So we desperately need additional affordable housing in this community. We have a lot of people that come into shelter, and then in order to identify housing, it takes quite a bit of time. So we do know that there's a bit of a bottleneck in terms of people being able to locate and move into affordable housing. The exciting thing about this particular project, and any project that adopts this philosophy, is that the Continuum has said for a very long time that affordable housing should be spread out throughout the community, that it's not just the responsibility of one district to address homelessness, it's everyone's responsibility to take a part and responsibility in improving the quality of life for folks in our community. So the Continuum of Care is happy to have affordable housing wherever it may be, and really is seeing through the point in time count that homelessness is currently on the rise, and that can be due to a number of factors, but we have identified that folks can't get out of homelessness without affordable housing.
Thank you, Jody. When we first identified the Fresno Hotel as our ideal site for this, we realized that it's a large property, but only 35% of the rooms are operational right now. It's falling into despair, and we recognize that it was once the life of Fresno. It was well known for their high quality rooms and their grand entertaining spaces. Also known as the Smuggler's Inn, it was the place to be in Fresno, a place sought out by business travelers, tourists, and conferences alike. However, over the years, it's fallen into disrepair and renovations have not been made. But we believe that this is an ideal property for this new project, and that we believe this property can again be a bright spot in our community and our neighborhood. We, along with our partners, are proposing to create Crossroads Village. We believe that it's ideally located close to services, job training, transportation, education, shopping, and entertainment, and it'll be an ideal partner to the Better Blackstone Association that has committed to improving the Blackstone corridor. Bringing more than 150 units of affordable housing will be a benefit to the larger Fresno community, and will offer many amenities on site, including laundry, community green spaces with barbecues, a pool, and business and computer centers where families and individuals will be able to take the steps to their next step in their life.
This is where it starts to get exciting. So we've started working with architects on some long-term visioning. Homekey allows us to acquire this property and immediately provide housing, as we've been discussing. But our vision doesn't stop there. We hope to continue finding complete rehab dollars and invest millions and millions, could be a $30–40 million investment into that corridor. And so here's some initial sketches. If you Google hotel and motel housing conversions, there's amazing work being done across the country. This is a prime location. The Blackstone corridor has been looking for investment, so we're excited to continue working with the Better Blackstone corridor. And we envision what could happen here. Think about bringing housing units closer to the street. Think about repurposing what's currently a hotel lobby and turn it into a multi-purpose community building for families to access family classes, yoga classes. Things we provide in lots of our developments are computer rooms, kitchens where families can host family parties. And so as we think about what the general plan calls for and the amenities of Blackstone, having the new rapid transit right along Blackstone, the amazing work that's happening with Manchester, we're excited to continue working with the community for this long-term vision, where we're able to really complete the rehab and really invest significant resources and think about what we all want to see at that intersection for a really long-term vision. So the next slide, we'll talk a little bit about the timeline. Like I said, Homekey really allows us an acquisition source. As the supervisor spoke about really early on, this is a really fast program. So we hope to, if we're awarded, we would acquire the hotel next month and basically move immediately to begin accessibility and life and safety upgrades and move people in immediately. We know that the demand is there. We know that there are people waiting right now that desperately need housing for themselves and for their families. And then we move into kind of phase two as people are housed and beginning to stabilize their lives, work with social service providers. We start thinking about what's next. So we continue working with architects, continue engaging the community, talking to the many other community resources and service providers that are doing other work in that area. And we start thinking about the full scope rehab, which comes with that final slide there, which is a really long-term 55-year commitment. In California, you can't develop affordable housing with really having some serious skin in the game for a really long time. And both at my firm and with RH, that's our commitment, is that we will be in the community and be a good neighbor and be a partner for the long haul. We own and manage our entire portfolios, both of our agencies. We don't develop something and turn around. We stay in the community and stay a neighbor for the long haul. And we're excited to do that both here at Crossroads and elsewhere in our portfolio. Back to you, Katie.
So in conclusion, we believe that Crossroads Village will be a bright spot in our community. Fresno is in need of quality, safe, and affordable housing. We are committed to developing just that at Crossroads Village. Homekey is an opportunity that our community should not and cannot miss out on. This is an opportunity for Fresno to make a significant impact on the need for affordable housing and improve the community while doing so. We greatly appreciate all of your time this evening, and we hope that you have been able to get a little bit of the vision that we have for this property.
Okay, so just to give you a little bit of an overview on what we're going to do, this slide actually includes the process to be able to ask questions. You could either do it by raising your hand, and then I'll go over and click on you so that you'll be able to ask your question. Or you could send your questions to the chat box. I've already been seeing a few questions come in and been answering them as they've been popping up. So if there's questions that you're targeting to a specific individual, please let me know, and that way we'll be able to get that person to answer. So at this point, Katie, if you could stop sharing just for a bit, and then we'll bring this back on and then make it available again online when we post this to the website. And so I have a few people with their hands up, and so I'm going to try to go down and find you. There are quite a few of you online. I do understand that there is a cap, I believe, on the number of individuals that can participate with us. So we're trying to see if there is a way to increase that number. I think right now we're at 99 individuals, but there were, I think, a few people trying to get on, and we were trying to modify the number. So let's go to Mary Haskin. So Mary, I'm gonna go ahead and try to see if I can bring you on here. I'm hoping. I may need to, let's see. Hold on just a second. For some reason, it's not letting me unmute you. So let me try somebody else here. Okay, I'm not sure. So let me go ahead and go to the questions, and I apologize for that. I was trying to unmute you and I'm not able to. So yes.
Sonia, it might be because Katie's the host right now.
Ah, Katie.
Screen sharing.
Let me unhost you, Katie.
Please take that away.
Sorry about that. Or if you could see it, Katie, if you can go ahead and click on Mary Haskin there.
Mary. You should be unmuted now, Mary.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Hi. So I've been a resident back in the neighborhood since 2009, but my parents purchased that home 42 years ago. So I just refied the house. I'm not going anywhere. So we did a big complete city block organization of our neighborhood watch, and so we've been trying to work within our block, and we've really made a change. We work closely with the Central Policing District. We've collaborated with the Blackstone business merchants, and we're all doing our part to revitalize that neighborhood. Your presentation sounds great. However, I have a few questions. So I did see the footage of the supervisor board meeting where there was discussion on this, and I know that there was question from Supervisor Magzig to you, Sonia, about communication. And yes, you communicated with city officials, but I also know, I watched Councilman Nelson Esparza's comments that the community wasn't consulted in any way. And so I understand that you guys are upset because there was a flyer and you feel that it was inflammatory. But I also know that that was Nelson Esparza's way of alerting us because none of you people were going to. And I have had conversations with Mr. Hardy, and he did tell me in his words that we would know after it was approved. Therefore, not allowing the community in any way, shape, or form to have any kind of input. And I don't think that that's being transparent. I also have a question. We don't want to begrudge families, and especially with what's going on in the mountain communities. You know, people are losing their homes, and I get that. The concern for us is we've been overrun with homeless for the last few years, and it's killing me because I grew up there. So we're trying our best to do what we can do. Yes, if this particular property is completely pristine and helps us solve that problem, then I won't have an issue with it. My concern though is I'm wondering, in this interim while you're trying to help the homeless, what is it gonna look like? I have driven around to a couple of other properties. Mr. Hardy gave me some addresses, and some of them look really great, but one of them, there's trash on the grass, and I thought, well, if that's what it's gonna look like, and then if we have homeless around, so what is it gonna look like around? I have gone to the property and I know what's going on. I do know that the current owners don't care and they want to sell. My concern is apparently the property is only valued at a certain amount, but they're asking more. So I'm wondering if we're going to lose some dollars by giving them what they're asking instead of what the property is valued at. And I also want to know what that time frame is that you're supposed to have the homeless housing or the homeless families, because I've heard a couple of things, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years. But when I spoke to Mr. Hardy, he told me in his own words that in 6 to 12 months, he can do whatever he wants. So I have some concerns. While this sounds great, some things just don't add up. So it's not making sense to me. And if we're using monies to help homeless, and I've learned that I've looked up on their RH Builders website, they sit on these housing commissions. Does that give them an unfair advantage to getting state money, and were other developers ever given the opportunity to do this as well? And last thing, we also have the rescue mission that purchased the old Sierra Hospital less than 500 yards from this property. So while we need to spread things around, now are we just going to centralize everything in central Fresno? And one question that I want to be asked of Mr. Brandow, and are there any plans to do anything like this in North Fresno? Because I know Clovis is doing something on Willow. I don't know if you guys are involved in that one, but are there plans to put something like this in North Fresno, or are you only going to keep it in Central Fresno and West Fresno and so on and so forth? And I thank you for allowing me to speak.
Okay, Katie, if you now let me just start with the first question that you asked with regard to transparency. So and I don't know why it's not switching over, Katie. So with regard to the transparency, just as it was a very quick timeline, our intention was to get the information in and then also to be able to share the information. Quite frankly, we continue to engage with the state regarding the information that they seek and what the parameters are of what they're asking of the community. So when we submitted the application, it was sort of a placeholder of sorts. And then since August 4th, we've been interacting with them and they've been asking us for additional information. Just a week or so ago, they actually asked us for more details to be provided. And so we're still in the middle of that. And as Supervisor Brandow mentioned, our main goal was to secure an allocation for this community. There's actually applications that were submitted by the Housing Authority with the City of Fresno for sites located on Parkway. So, I mean, there are at least, I believe, 4 projects out in that area. And then, of course, the project that we're looking at right now. With regard to the properties, existing properties, let me have Katie address that and probably somebody at RH.
Yes. So I know you were able to come out and take a look at a couple of our properties, and we do take a lot of pride in making sure that our properties are kept up well, and that we do practice a good neighbor policy where whenever there are concerns brought by the neighbors, we move very quickly to address them. Many of our sites, we have active participation from the residents with things like trash pickup and making sure that, before COVID, they were volunteering in the community and being an active member in the neighborhood that they're residing in. In regards to your time frame question, it did have to move very quickly through the application process, and we do anticipate that there will be families residing in the units as soon as we're able to complete some minor safety and ADA upgrades to the property to allow for those units to be accessible for all. Jessica, did you want to speak to any of the questions?
Sure, just to kind of piggyback on both of your answers. I completely agree that long-term, the quality and the commitment of your management team is what matters. Like RH, we really pride ourselves in the quality of our management and being a long-term sustainable neighbor in the community as a property management company and an owner. So I think it's great that you did site tours. I always say pictures are one thing, but site tours are even more valuable. Of course, you know, trash happens. I think if you went back the next day, I would guess it was probably picked up. But we really, both our companies really pride ourselves on being a good neighbor, being engaged with our neighbors. A lot of my properties, we have neighborhood advisory councils, and neighbors from the community even come to events and participate with tenants in various community events to keep that engagement ongoing for the long haul. To answer a couple of the questions that I saw, yes, it's on-site management. Actually, there will be a live-in residential manager as well as on-site leasing and professional staff, maintenance, security, janitorial at the site. And then to answer the other question, for my firm, yes, absolutely. We need to develop supportive housing and affordable housing in every single neighborhood across the region, across the city. My firm is working on the project in Clovis that you referenced. My whole firm we've been developing housing in a wide, diverse range of neighborhoods, and that's our commitment and our intention for the foreseeable future. So I completely agree with that.
Okay, I did want to just circle back to one more question that that Mary asked, and that was regarding the timeline. As part of the PowerPoint, we did include the timeline that this should take place. The funding that is available through the feds is actually only available until the end of this year for the acquisition portion and some of the renovations. The operating piece will be available a little bit longer. I believe it's a 2-year time frame. That's the money that would be coming from the state. So it is a very, very quick turnaround. And again, we submitted it as quickly as possible because we wanted to secure that that allocation for our region. Okay, so now I'm going to move on to AJ. So AJ, I'm going to go ahead and allow you to speak. There you are.
Yeah,
and
can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello?
Hello,
Yes,
we can hear you.
Yes, we can hear you.
Can you hear me? Okay, yeah, thank you for letting me speak. Okay, so let me tell you a bit. Yeah, okay. So I am the president of Central Blackstone Merchants, so all the merchants between Shield and Ashland. So to tell you a brief story, 2016, the area was hopeless. We didn't. I own a car wash from Blackstone in Dakota, but all my
You're cutting out a little bit, AJ.
every business around me, 3 to 4 times. Okay, so I would say every in 2016 up to 2016, every business and the drug deal and the prostitution in that area. So what we did, I went to Chief Barrington at that time. That was in Central Fresno, Captain Cooley. We talked to the code enforcer and we cleaned the area. So if you look at the area today, and I walked it Sunday, I walked it Monday, and I walked it today, and I took a lot of pictures. So the area on Blackstone between Shield and Ashland today is the cleanest area of Blackstone. Anywhere you go to North Fresno, on Shaw, on Hurd, you can see all the homeless people. Today, I walked the whole area. I didn't even see one homeless person. Yesterday and during the holidays when most businesses were closed, Sunday and Monday, I saw 3. But today we took care of them and we kicked them out. So we suffered a lot. People lost their life savings to clean and invest in business that lost everything. So our area today is very clean. It's the cleanest area. I challenge each and every one of you to come to me and we'll walk the area together and see how clean our area is. So basically, we don't want to bring homeless people back to our area because we just cleaned the area. We're bringing business back to the area. And what Steve Brandow said, we have to put homeless people there for about 2 years. We cannot afford that as business people. And when we say the word homeless, I mean, what does it mean? Is it drug dealers? Is it rapers? Is it sex offenders? Is it the chemical dependency? Is it the mental illness? Is it history of violence? Is it criminals? And those are all homeless people that you're gonna put there. So we and me, as I represent 70 members on from Central Blackstone Merchant Association, we do not want this project to go there. It's a good idea, but it should move to where it has to be, like Motel Row. I talked to Jerry Dyer a couple of days ago. He wants to do it there. I know the council members all agreed to do it to Motel Row. I know the council members today where they said that they wanted to be in different areas in the city, but they all agreed that this is the wrong location for it. So all the city council members today say this is the wrong location. And we as association, as Merchant Blackstone, as residential, we say this is the wrong location to have it. Because within the area, we're not willing to go through the same issues 2 more years. Today, I challenge everybody again to come with me and walk the area and see how it is. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, AJ. And so if you want to discuss the project itself, and I think we didn't discuss the security aspect of it, Katie, so if you can take it from there.
Definitely. Like all of our other projects, we will have full-time security on site at the project, as well as investing in new lighting systems, more secure fences, and overall ensuring that the property is secured. And in terms of who would be residing there, as a property management company, we would follow all fair housing regulations and make sure that we are screening properly and fairly for any residents that are applying to live on site there.
Any other comments regarding AJ's questions? Okay, and I know there was a comment in our chat that asks about the projects on Parkway. So earlier I had stated that what you'll want to do is actually contact Housing Authority or City of Fresno to provide additional information regarding those projects. Similar to us, they are seeking housing between 150, I think it's close to 150. And quite frankly, it's very likely that the state may consider both of our projects. So not only this one that we're discussing today, but also the projects that were applied for by the Housing Authority. So although we were submitting to place a hold on funding for this area, it's very possible that similarly Housing Authority and city's application will also be considered the same as ours or similar to ours. Okay, I'm gonna allow, let me see, I have Jerry. Jerry, I'm gonna go ahead and bring you in. And if you could just unmute yourself. It's Jerry Bill. And let me see, I think you're not able to speak. You're still muted on your end. Jerry, we could come back to you if you're not ready.
Okay,
Oh,
I
there
found
you
it. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, thank you for taking my question. And I appreciate the presentation. This was a well done presentation. And I did have some questions, but I think you've answered them all in the presentation. I live in the neighborhood. I've lived here since 1978. So that's, I think, 42 years. And I live walking distance from what was the Smugglers. And I would like to see the old Smugglers, put to some good use. And I think this would be an excellent use for it, particularly a good location because right across the street at Manchester, you have Fresno Adult School. I've worked with homeless people a lot, and a lot of them need to go to Fresno Adult School or something like that to improve their skills. So that's available right there. Also Workforce Connection right across the street. A lot of resources that would help these people get on their feet again. So I think it's an excellent location, and I applaud you for picking that spot. And it looks like you have planned for good security and keeping the place neat and all of that. And it'll certainly look a lot better than it does now when you guys are done with it. That's the way it looks to me anyway. So I just wanted to make that comment and thank you for doing what you're doing.
Thank you, Jerry. Much appreciated. All right, now I'm going to move on to Miss Silva. If you could please unmute yourself and you'll be able to speak.
Hello, good evening, everyone. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Awesome. Well, thank you, everyone, for the presentation. You know, it was a short time, in the fact that you guys worked together to put this application together is amazing. But I gotta say that living in this neighborhood, there's some concerns that I do have. It hasn't been more than a year that I moved here, and I noticed there's a lot of homeless issues around this area, specifically with Manchester Park and around Blackstone and Ashland near the outlet grocery store. And I'm just first, I wasn't really aware that this application was going on, and just like myself, many people that live in this area that are not homeowners but do rent in the apartments nearby were really concerned the fact that they couldn't really, you know, they didn't knew this was happening, and at least they don't have really good experiences with other families, you know, near the other housing project by the Veterans Hospital. So just the fact that there hasn't been much, you know, a lot of knowledge or announcements about this project. I think it's really unfair to the community that live here, the own houses, the rent, and some of my neighbors talk earlier. I've seen the efforts that they've done just to make sure safety, you know, there's safety and there's the feeling of safety in the neighborhood. And so I think such a short timeline and not having, at least myself, not hearing clear plans of what's going to be like with you know, investment from the city, you know, so there's more safety in the main avenues, other, you know, involving other parts of the government that, you know, that will truly turn this into a successful long-term project. They're not clear for me. And also just hearing different language being used in the presentation and what could be in the application, you know, homeless families, low-income families. The fact that the language is not specific clear makes me think that things can change along the way. And I think just to avoid all of that, it needs to be more, when I hear clarity and transparency, that's what I feel like, you know, showing the application and the language that is being used and a plan that involves other departments, including the police department, right? What's going to be its presence in the neighborhoods around, and also what is going to be done with the homeless that are living in the parking, in the parks and parking lots, who also need resources, right? I mean, the fact that this is just for families also leaves these individuals out. And I think it's extremely unfair for them as well. And just like my other neighbor mentioned, I think it is everybody's responsibility to address homelessness. That is very true. And I also think that since there is a project already in Central Fresno, it has to be real talks about how to distribute housing across Fresno City, including Northern Fresno. And that's my comment. And again, I appreciate everybody's effort and, you know, work in putting all this application together.
Thank you so much, Ms. Silva, and thank you for sharing your thoughts and comments to all of you that are joining us today. There are our focus for this specific project is to bring in households, and as part of that, it could include families, it could include couples. There is a project, like I mentioned, that's being done, or several projects that are being considered on Parkway that would be a little bit different than our project. And the reason for that, our project would actually be funded through social services, some of the supporting funds for this project would actually come through that department. And so there's been questions that have come through this chat that are asking how it is that it'll be funded. It would likely be through projects where we have the opportunity to house individuals. And so this project specifically, again, based on the funding, it's meant for homeless and those that are impacted by COVID. And the information that we're providing to you now, again, it's a little bit different than the other Homekey project, only because we're trying to ensure that we bring people onto this site that would eventually occupy the site permanently. So we do want to improve their income while they're there, hopefully allow them to do some education and tap into some of the other resources that are in the area. I do understand Fresno Rescue Mission intends to do a center there at their old Sierra Hospital, and it's very possible that some of the resources that would be available there would also benefit this community, as would the proximity to the different amenities in the area. There was a question earlier about projects in the northern portion of the county. And so Robert Jeffers is the assistant for Supervisor Brandow. So Robert, if you could just briefly mention the project that's going on in Clovis that's not related to ours, but is happening.
Certainly. So I did, Mark and Mary, I did hear your comments regarding the supervisor's position. The supervisor takes every project on its merits. And his key concern always centers around the quality of the project, not just for the clients, but also the taxpayer. And when it comes to location, he's open-minded. In fact, there's a couple projects that are going in North Fresno near the border of Clovis. In fact, I think one is actually just on the Clovis side near Alluvial and Willow, I believe, in that area. It's a housing authority project. It's not associated with this or this grant. It's not saying that the county is even officiating, but these projects are going in around the county. They're not just being centered in downtown. And the supervisor is going to remain open-minded and will view everything as each project on its own merits. That was it.
Okay. Thank you. And so let me move on to Steve. Steve, I'm going to go ahead and click on you so you'll be able to speak. Just remember to unmute yourself, please.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. Good evening. Sonia, I watched that video at the council meeting, and then I also got some documentation about the Homekey program. One of the key concerns that I have that's in the documentation talks about housing people, and you even said, if I'm not mistaken in the video, people who suffer from substance abuse. So I'm assuming based on that, if I can get clarification on that, that it will be housing for people who have a drug addiction. Mm-hmm. And also I'm reversing back to another question that was left unanswered on about the actual timeline required by the state that is required to help homeless families versus opening up to others. You know, that was from Mary Haskins. We've been working together about this, talking a lot about it. And she also wanted to know about the money the owners are asking versus the value of the property. Is that some of those questions? Do they seem realistic that we can get an answer on?
Yes, and I do apologize. You're right. There was a question earlier. Let me just discuss first so with this specific funding, it doesn't have to tie back to substance use disorders or even mental health. It's possible that it could be that individuals or couples that come into that area, households that come in, could potentially have those issues, but it doesn't have to. I mean, certainly we have individuals right now, households that are in our existing shelters because they simply don't have a place to go, not necessarily because they have a substance use disorder or mental health issues. But they wouldn't be excluded, certainly. I mean, this is meant for households. So I'm not quite sure which video or if it was related to Homekey specifically, but this specific, when you look at the notice of funding allocation, which I did include as part of the board presentation, it's one of the attachments that's there. It specifically targets homeless individuals, those that are at homeless now or at risk of homelessness and impacted by COVID. It didn't have to have a nexus with substance use or mental health. And so, Katie, if you can cover the funding question.
Yes. So we would be purchasing the current smugglers in for approximately $9.7 million, which is the appraised value. The remainder of the grant funds would be utilized as part of the renovation to improve the life safety and the ADA necessary improvements to the facility to ensure that we're fully in compliance with that. But the purchase price that we have agreed to with the owner is the appraised value of the property. And I would also add that I'm seeing a lot of questions about who would be living there and what, the substance abuse and the mental health. And I think the important thing that we remember is that the people that would be living in these new units would be people who are already our neighbors, whether you live in Clovis, in West Fresno, in North Fresno, wherever you are, these are our neighbors. These are people who have fallen on a hard time. Maybe COVID has impacted their job and their income source, but these are the people that are just like you or me, that have just had one hard month, a couple hard months, and now are out of their housing. We're looking to rehouse these people into affordable units so they'll be able to get back and get on their feet and return to a life where they can provide for themselves.
I wanted to add to that, as we move towards housing individuals who have been previously homeless, in housing, people still sign leases, private leases with a landlord, and the rules of housing apply. So I often say that we do our best. We have on-site services, we work to help people access the kinds of services that are going to help them maybe get a better job or a higher paying job, get higher wages, get better access to primary health care. But at the same time, if you can't live by the rules of a lease, which means you are not sustainable in your apartment or you're bothering your neighbors, that's a lease violation, just like any other renter in the market at large. And that applies here. So I'm seeing a lot of comments about these people will ruin my business. These people are, dysfunctional. And that's not necessarily true by any means. Because someone has experienced homelessness in their lives doesn't mean that they're problematic people. It means that they're people that have been unhoused and they need housing. And that's our goal, is to give them housing so that they can be contributing members of our communities again and buy meals at restaurants and shop in stores and become neighbors that we all get to know.
Okay, and then just to finish that off, I think there was a question that came in with regard to who these individuals are. And again, we're trying to be really cautious about who would potentially go into these units. And by that, I mean, certainly if there's going to be people that are going to be permanently housed, we want to ensure that they're people that are ready for that transition in their life, that they're going to be ready to go into housing of some type. And so we're going to work with them to do that. So as part of the involvement with social services, there could very well also be involvement with Department of Behavioral Health, because they could be existing clients or maybe individuals that just needed that stability to then receive the assistance that they need. So there will be more than just putting them at the site and providing and giving them a place to stay. What we hope to do is also provide those wraparound services that they need in order to thrive and be able to remain in the community, as you know, and hopefully address some of the issues that have been ongoing. So I'm gonna go to Michael. Michael, I'm gonna go ahead and allow you to speak. So just remember to unmute yourself.
Hello there. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I'm a landlord in the area, so I own several houses. And as a landlord, one of the most important choices we make is who we say yes to. And what I haven't heard from this presentation yet, and maybe it's just assumed that and I haven't heard it, is what are going to be the qualifications to say yes to a tenant, right? A resident or whatever, you know, you're signing a lease. Is it going to just be first come, first serve? Whoever shows up, shows up? Tell us more about that. Let us know. We understand that people go on hard times, and most of us, I think all of us, would want to help someone who's there, but we also know intuitively the folks that we don't want, right? There are some folks that are homeless. You probably see them in the chat. They're addicted to this and that. And you only need one bad apple to really stir the pot. So make us feel better if you can about who is going to be selected. Do you have the criteria? Is it published? Those kinds of things, if you don't mind.
Definitely, I can answer that question. I think one of the important things to remember is that these are rent-paying tenants. They'll have subsidies that assist with their rent, but that means that they have worked through the system. They have shown diligence to get their paperwork in line, to complete all the necessary steps, and to have some source of income to pay their portion of the rent. So we're not talking about just anybody walking in off the street. There is a commitment from the renters to be invested in the property, and we would screen all tenants to similar screening as any other apartment complex in Fresno, understanding that people with vouchers may have a difficult rental history, but like Jessica said, they would sign a lease and they'd be held accountable to ensuring that they follow the rules of the apartment complex, just like every other apartment complex in Fresno.
Thank you. Again, it's really about selection, and then it's management. You have hit on the management several times. And again, situations change, and who you say yes to day one may be a bad apple day 100. So it sounds like there's on-site management and processes in place to remove people, which is very helpful. So thank you. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you. You're muted, Sonia.
Sorry, that's why you were saying no to me, Wayne. Okay, so Mary Haskin had asked a question, and I do apologize for not addressing it earlier, Mary, and I think Steve may have brought it up as well. And so the question was about the 5 and 10-year plan that was requested by the state. And so the state, as part of this funding, asked for a 5 to 10-year plan. And also, we mentioned 55 years as well, because our intent is to perhaps have this in place for up to 55 years. There was also a question about the 50, what about year 56? What happens at that point? So Jessica, if you could please cover the 5 to 10 year requested, and also the 55 years, and what that means in terms of what is being determined interim and then permanent.
Yep. I've answered this a couple of times in the chat, so I'm getting good at it. So Homekey required a 5-year plan, and then they wanted to know a 10-year plan. And then they also wanted to know, do you have a plan to get you to a 55-year plan? And I know that sounds crazy, but that's how we talk in the housing world. So the county went in as a partner with us and said, we commit to the operational funding for a minimum of 5 years. That's a renewable source. So we can guaranteed, if we're awarded the acquisition funds, we will work in partnership with the county with existing resources, like Jody explained, existing county resources that are mostly federal money via HUD for folks that don't have somewhere to go. We have been selected as one of the spots where those resources, operating resources, would be dedicated for that 5-year period. That can then be renewed. That gets us to 10 years. That's the Homekey requirement. But what we have said is that's not enough. We want to continue to find more robust rehab dollars, which is the second set of pictures you saw. We want to go beyond Hotel Fresno, convert it into permanent housing, and we want to do a full-blown $30 to $40 million rehab. We have begun that process. We know this project scores extremely well for many, many other highly competitive financial resources at the state level. These are the resources that my firm has been competitively seeking for the past 20 years with a very high success rate. So we have a strong belief that we will be successful in getting the rest of that money to complete the vision, which takes us to the complete project that you saw, which explains how you get from 5 to 10 And then our commitment, which is to go all the way to 55. 55 is a state of California covenant restriction. So if you take tax credits or one of the state's affordable housing resources, such as No Place Like Home, that my project just secured in my firm just secured in partnership with County of Fresno, that comes with a 55-year promise. As for year 56, in all reality, what happens is you refinance so that you can redo your roof and upgrade all of the major systems, more like in year 15, in year 20. And every time you do that, the 55-year clock starts over. And that's designed so that we're really committing to these affordability restrictions in perpetuity, so that we can't develop something and then raise the rents to $1,500, a couple years later. So that's where you get all those numbers. But it's really designed so that we are helping the people that the programs were originally intended to serve for the long term.
Okay, and Jody, if you could just touch on what is included when we have a program such as this, what wraparound services need?
Sure. So what happens is we use case management services to link people up with any additional services. So I'll explain that when people come into housing from experiencing homelessness, there's a period of time where they're meeting their basic needs, right? Their food, shelter, clothing needs. And then what we see is that folks start to look at, okay, so, I've got some mental health issues and I'd like to start addressing them. And, I've got this substance abuse issue and I don't think I want to use anymore. And they start, once their basic needs are met, then they start looking at their other needs. And so the case managers are there to help wrap those services around them so they can make those linkages to substance abuse treatment. They can connect them with, the potential for even sometimes on-site AA and NA groups. They can connect them with mental health treatment, even inpatient substance abuse treatment, assistance with their PG&E, any of those things that we're able to kind of get with them, identify what the needs are, and slowly, check the boxes off and help them get attached to the services that they need, so that they can start looking at employment and education, and then we can connect them to those services. So it's really kind of ongoing the whole time they're in housing. As they identify a new goal, there's staff there to help them reach that goal.
Thank you. Okay, so we're going to move on to Alex. Alex, I'm going to go ahead and unmute you. Can you unmute on your side? Go ahead.
Yes. Hi, can you hear me?
Yes. Now we can, though. Are you still there?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I want to go back to one of those on the panel that talked about how residents would be screened using the same criteria as if they're entering other apartment complexes. So in working with some people, I've kind of noticed that some of the barriers, even those that have like Section 8 vouchers or have some type of assistance, they still can't get into some housing because of their background history. So maybe they have evictions, or maybe even people that have Social Security income might not make the 2.5 or the 3 times rent that regular apartment complexes ask for as a screening tool. So, those are big barriers and challenges because even the people that owe past due balances to other landlords, those are viewed as evictions as well. So with these big barriers, when you do the screening process to let people in, how will these have those opportunities? Because a lot of folks tend to lose their Section 8 because no way they've been able to eliminate those barriers will let them find that permanent housing.
I think I can address that. You were cutting out a little bit, but I think I heard the heart of the question. So if I missed it, maybe put it in the chat. I think you were saying, if you were referring to my comments about standard apartments, I was talking about the rules of a lease. In other words, noise violations, the rules of being a good neighbor, those kinds of rules. In terms of screening, you're right. Many quote market rate or traditional landlords do have lots of screening criteria that make it really hard for someone who's ever been unhoused to find housing again, or they have income requirements or security deposits that are so high that it makes those are some of the factors that contribute to why homelessness is so high in our communities. So some of those factors are very different for us. We're not quite far enough to know yet if we would have something like a security deposit. We often do not have a security deposit, or we have a move-in fee, a one-time small move-in fee that reduces the barrier, because our goal is to work with people to have them housed, not to put up barriers such that they cannot be housed. We still do look at background checks. We're looking for violent felonies. We're looking for sex offenders. But we are looking to find ways to help people be housed, not find ways to not house them. We work in partnership with those social service providers like Jody spoke about to see if this is the right fit. We're looking to find people that are housing ready, people that with housing can access the services and remain housed. Some people maybe need to be in a transitional program first. Some people maybe do need treatment of some sort. But if they're housing ready, then we want to be that solution. And if that means providing the housing and also giving them access to a case manager, then that's what this can do. So hopefully that answered what I heard of your question.
All right, thank you. I'm going to go ahead and Tammy, if you could just unmute yourself on your side and you're ready to go.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I was just calling in to let you guys know that I think what you're doing is awesome. I think it's a wonderful idea. I think the area is perfect for it. I know everybody keeps saying, why don't you put it in North Fresno? Why do we have to have it in Central Fresno? We've had the homeless and the homeless services in the downtown area for as long as I can remember. I think that it's only natural that it moved to Central Fresno, and then it's going to take time before we can get people on board in the North End. So I think, what you're doing is great. Where you're doing it is great. And just continue on with it, because you guys are doing an awesome job. And that's it.
Thank you so much, Tammy.
Thank you, guys.
I wanted to add a comment real quick. I was typing it, but it's faster to talk. There's been some comments about the school and about children. I wanted to highlight, of course, we know there's a school there. My husband's first teaching job was actually at Fort Miller. And just a reminder that, many children in Fresno Unified are experiencing homelessness as well. We're not far along enough that I can say we've had robust conversations directly with Fort Miller, but we've spoken with other schools in the area who are directly providing services to homeless children who have said that they know that their families need housing in this direct neighborhood. So we are not unaware that families experiencing homelessness have children who need access to schools. It's one of the conversations we've been having with Fresno Mission around their ideas in that area, because their ideas for City Center involve really robust family services and even a school. And so we're really engaged in how we can support children that might live at Crossroads.
And Jody, just to touch back also with the homeless families and some of our conversations, there's been discussion about tutoring being made available, and then for the homeless children to be able to connect with school. Have you seen some of that in through the continuum of care that is occurring now with COVID going on and kids not being able to go to school, that there's connection actually being done through tutoring?
Yeah, so we have there are permanent supportive housing programs that are doing a lot of this stuff right now, where they're virtually connecting with tutors that the schools are offering through even Project Access, which is the advocacy program for homeless youth. Sorry, I have a couple dogs making noise in the background. So we've seen a lot of that. We've also seen programs that are connecting with Fresno EOC's meal program, and while the kids are out of school, they're still providing them with lunches on site at the programs, as well as support for the parents. So there's some really good models out there for keeping the parents and the youth connected, so that they're able to see some successes in their education during online schooling. And then when the school year is in, we see a lot of the same, although it's in person. So being able to link kids who, were previously enrolled with Project Access because they were experiencing homelessness with a liaison at the school, and attaching that to some tutoring and other educational programs. So there's a lot of opportunity for that in permanent supportive housing complexes.
Thank you. Des, I'm going to go ahead and unmute you. At your end, if you could just unmute yourself and you'll be able to see.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, so I had a couple questions and a couple comments, so if you're ready. Back to AJ's comments about Blackstone and Ashland area. I frequent that area a lot, working, doing outreach. And over there, I don't know where he's walking at, but I actually have about 23 clients over in that area. So I'm kind of confused about what he said by there's no homeless at all. There are a lot of street family members in that area right now. A lot of elders, some vets that could possibly use this transitional housing as a way to get into permanent housing. So I was just kind of, I didn't know where he's getting his data or his pictures, but I can show him my pictures of the amount of people that are out there, especially the elders and the people on SSI. I think this is a positive thing. It doesn't, to me, it doesn't matter where it's at in Fresno. We need it. We need more of them. I know Ming has another property up there on Shaw and Cedar, which would be amazing to do up there also. If they want to do one on Parkway, well, that's kind of, I don't know. I'm not going to speak on that one right now. But I was kind of wondering about in that district, Fresno Rescue Mission has an apartment complex that is for the program men. I'm wondering if there was a town hall regarding that, or if any of the individuals in that district were notified. Also on the same block, there is a safe house. So we have men from prison in this program in an whole apartment complex. We also have a safe house for women on the same block. I don't understand why adding something that could potentially get a lot of the residents into safety and off the streets is a problem when we have an apartment complex right there and a safe house right there in the same block area radius. And nothing was said about the schools, the children, about any of this when the program Fresno Rescue Mission has over there. I don't remember anything going out about asking if it was okay. But I guess because it's a prison program or a drug program, it's okay. But when somebody mentions homeless, they think dark, dirty, dingy, ugly drug addict. Well, who's ever against this, I was previously homeless, and it wasn't due to drugs, alcohol, or because I wanted to be there. It was due to a lack of resources, lack of housing, lack of a safe place like this place right here for somebody going through domestic violence. All of us know that work in this field that we have one domestic violence shelter, and it is completely full all the time. So to have these women out here fleeing domestic violence, going out to the streets with these children where there are rapists and child molesters and gangbangers and shootings and stabbings and killings, the best bet is to have something like this, multiple ones. I'm all for this, you guys. I also want to know about the transitional deposit. I would say I'm kind of concerned about transitional deposit because a lot of the people that are homeless are low income, therefore they're not going to have that deposit. regardless if there is a program that's willing to help them, is that something that can be put into place prior to all of this being done? Because that's where it's going to stop a lot of people like me from being able to go into a place like this, because I don't have it, you guys. I do not have it. I am on disability. I'm doing what I can out here in the community, and I would not be able to qualify for this. I have an eviction on me, and I don't have enough money for deposit, and I sure in the heck don't have enough money for rent, even at $500, so I would need a voucher. But somebody like me that's fleeing domestic violence, are you guys going to ask them what their eviction is for? Because mine is for that. But people don't look at that. Property owners do not look at that. They see there's an eviction, it's recent, I'm sorry, you can't come in. If that is something that they're willing to look at, because to deny somebody because you see an eviction and not know what the reason is behind it is, it's gonna be hard on a lot of homeless individuals. I don't look at this project as a homeless project. I look at it as a low income project, because we had a lot of homeless individuals out here on the streets prior to COVID. We don't need to use COVID as one of the things, even though our numbers went up. But we had this issue going on for a long time, especially on Blackstone and Ashland. And anybody that knows that area, Cheryl would have been somebody perfect for this. And she was killed. And she was probably the longest living homeless individual that was on the corner of Blackstone and Ashland. And I'm pretty sure anybody in that area knew Cheryl that was over there. So the screening for past convictions, what is the one-time move-in fee? How much is that? And in my case, what would you guys be willing to do for somebody like me, somebody fleeing domestic violence, somebody who got an eviction behind domestic violence, somebody who's out there in the street, somebody who does not have, that is housing ready because I have an income, but doesn't have the money or the deposit to move into a safe environment like this. And also, I think the other question was about security.
Let's go ahead and address your questions. So we can start off with you, Jessica, and maybe Katie. With regard to the specifics.
Yeah, Des, I was giving examples. We haven't vetted those things here. I completely agree with you that looking at evictions can be a real discriminatory tool. So no, that is not our intention to use prior evictions as a way to keep people out. And no, we don't intend to set move-in fees or security deposits in a way to keep people out. I was just kind of giving some examples of other projects where rather than, a 3-month security deposit, we've done like $25 move-in fees, but we haven't set that for this project. We'll work with the service providers. We'll understand exactly the nitty-gritty, but that is very much not our intent. Our goal is to get people exactly like you just described, who are housing ready into these units. So every example you gave is the kind of people that we're hoping to house. If I could, just because I see a question, unless there was another question from Des, I don't want to miss anything. Did anybody else?
I think so she touched on a couple things. It was regarding the other sites that are near the area, but then also I think specifically related to the deposit, but then trying to ensure that individuals in her, perhaps even fleeing domestic violence, would not be, that it wouldn't be an issue with property like that.
Sonia, you kind of were cutting out. I'm sorry.
So she just wanted to confirm that persons that were fleeing domestic violence or had difficulty, I think, with the deposit, that it wouldn't be an issue. So I think you touched on that would be considered, but then I think other criteria that we would potentially look at, that hasn't been determined yet, right?
Correct. I mean, the real nitty gritty, we haven't been awarded. So obviously we haven't, gotten into those real operational details. But, our goal is to lower barriers for people that have eviction histories or that are fleeing domestic violence. Our goal is to provide housing first to people that need housing to stabilize their lives. So, we would like to set operational plans as a management company, as an owner, that embrace that and help us to work with exactly the kinds of personal stories that Des just described.
Okay. So Ruby, I'm going to go ahead and allow you to speak. So if you could just unmute on your end. It's Ruby Gonzalez. And you're still muted, so just need you to unmute. There you
Hello?
go. Yes. Hi, Ruby.
Hi. I have this question. I know I did ask a question earlier. So I am the Jeb's Blueberry Hill Restaurant on Blackstone in Dakota. I'm across the street from AJ. I'm actually the owner. So every day we are having to deal with the homeless. They make a mess on the side of our restaurant. They've cut in the fence through our back parking lot. We've actually had a guy in front of our restaurant shooting up drugs. My husband had to ask him to leave. So we've been left in the dark. We have not heard any, for any help for us. And you know, we are living in the real world. We have to deal with the homeless, the prostitution, and I do agree they need some housing. You know, everyone needs some help. But a lot of the families that are going to be living in those apartments, I'm sure some of them are going to be our customers. And yes, I will welcome them. Now, what if we do get some families that are causing a stir-up in my restaurant? And will I go and report it to the security that's going to be posted at those apartment complex, or how are we going to be protected?
That's a great, I think that's a really great question, because once someone is housed, they are no longer likely the still homeless person on the street that you're referencing. So I think that's exactly the heart of what many people are talking about tonight is, what about those that don't get to live at Crossroads and are still homeless and are still bothersome to us as business owners and homeowners? In other words, the homeless problem is bigger than this development can solve. And so what are we going to do about that? I think that's a really valid question. I don't know if maybe Sonia or maybe even Mr. Jeffords could speak to additional kind of county and city resources for homelessness beyond what we as one housing development will be able to resolve with our project.
You know, the great thing about, you know, working together and collaborating with the city of Fresno and other cities in our community is that as we become aware of issues similar to this, and also encampments, right, you know, in different locations, we actually work as a team to try to get the outreach team out into the area. And Des actually mentioned it earlier that she's actually is doing some outreach out there on behalf of her group, but there's also outreach teams through the city of Fresno and the county of Fresno, where we try to develop relationships with individuals and trying to get them to come into housing. Some individuals are going to need a higher level of assistance than others, and we've seen that just with the individuals that have come into our different sites. But we work with folks such as Jody's team also to try to make sure that as beds become available, that we're able to transition people into those beds. So we've had similar situations on county properties as well, where folks are doing things that generally are not okay to do in public, much less in front of families. So we have, you know, addressed those, you know, through our partnerships with the cities and other jurisdictions such as the railroads and Caltrans to try to get some assistance out to the people where they're at. But certainly it's likely we could do so much more once there's a property such as this. And I know one of the persons on the chat mentioned the Blue Sky facility also. That is supported through our Department of Behavioral Health, as is the Department of Behavioral Health location that's also on Dakota and near Manchester Center. And so, again, there's quite a few resources in that area, but, you know, we would just have to commit to working even further collaboratively. Katie, I don't know if you want to address the good neighbor policy, because I think that's something that I've seen on the properties that have been renovated, where there's really a lot of care. Yeah, so if you could touch on that.
Definitely. I know we do have a good neighbor policy, and we are committed to that. I think a prime example would be our Hacienda facility, and I would invite anybody out to visit that facility. We, just off a quick count in my head, we probably have well over 300 individuals and families housed in various homeless housing, permanent supportive housing, and substance abuse treatment programs on the site. And you would not identify that there are homeless there. There are not encampments outside of the facility. We take great care that when we do notice maybe an RV parked outside or somebody that is hanging around, as a management company, engaging those people and finding out what their needs are and working with them as an outreach team to get them into a bed or get them into a program that they need to attend. But we do not allow people to set up camps or form encampments in our neighborhood or around our properties. We are committed to that, and we do work with those people to ensure that they are connected to resources so they don't have to encamp outside of our properties.
I think also something worth touching on is, talking a little bit about the stigma that accompanies the word homeless, and realizing that there's a lot of people who are housed who are super disruptive and problematic as well, that go into businesses, that walk down the street, that catch the bus. People experiencing homelessness are just people. So with every population of people, you might have some people that are a little disruptive, or some people that are super easy to get along with, and some people that are highly productive, and some people that are just trying to get on their feet. It's just a population of people. So I think when we look at housing, we have to realize that it's an apartment complex. So you're going to have all different kinds of people from all different kinds of life with a ton of different stories, and to lump them all into this category of disruptive and problematic is really putting a lot of limitations on what we can do in this community to make it better for everyone, and improve the quality of life for all of our neighbors. So I just want to put that out there, because I think sometimes we get lost in the stigma of it and forget that a lot of people are just one paycheck away to being in the same situation. So I think it's worth thinking about.
Thank you, Katie. Charlotte, I'm going to go ahead and unmute you now. So if you could please unmute yourself on your end.
All right.
Yes.
Okay, I have a couple of questions. First of all, you guys just talked about the Hacienda. What is the turnover rate there?
I can answer that question before you go further. There's a variety of different programs, so there's no single turnover rate. Some of the programs are low barrier shelters that have the 90-day stay limit. Other programs are permanent supportive housing, and people can stay indefinitely in those units. So there's really a mix of people residing on the campus, that there isn't a single turnover rate that we could identify.
Okay, so if I understand, this is a different subject. What is the goal to get, okay, you guys are talking about the homeless. Okay, so my thing is it's not really a homeless, it's a low income program, right?
Yes.
Okay, so when people get in there, because I'm an on-site property manager, so people get in there and they get complacent and they want to stay. They don't want to make more money. They don't want to move forward. I know plenty of people that are willing to work part-time so they can get a roof over their head and have somebody else pay the majority of their income. The homeless I think of is the people that are trying to camp outside my property. I offer them water, food, but they can't live there. Okay, and that's my problem. So, and then are you guys planning to have security? Because whenever you get a group of a big group like this, there's going to be problems.
Yes, so definitely all of our properties have security. Depending on the needs of the property, determines the level of security that we have at them. But again, I would invite you out to see the hacienda, where we do have security patrolling from 3 p.m. to 7 a.m. Every day of the week, holidays included. In terms of the homeless that are camping outside, I think it's best for us to expand our definition of who the homeless that this program would serve. There's many homeless that we don't see on the street corners. There are people that are living in garages or staying in motels long-term and simply can't find a unit that would accept them or that has adequate resources for them. And so those would be some of the people that would be residing in this new complex, in this new development. It wouldn't necessarily be the person that's camping outside of your store right now or outside of your residence right now, but we have to understand that the impact that would have on the system. So when we take people out of shelters and we take families who are ready to go into housing because they have their subsidy in their hand, that opens beds and low barrier shelters for people to be moved off the street and to go through those same steps of progress. Maybe it's getting sober, maybe it's working through the system to get their voucher, so that they can also go into housing, long-term, permanent housing, affordable housing. And to answer Mary's question very quickly, yes, the property would be gated.
Okay, and I apologize for not saying this earlier, and thank you, Robert Jeffers, for bringing it up on the text. So in order for a person that's calling from their phone to raise their hand, do *9, and that'll raise your hand. So I apologize for not, honestly, I didn't know that myself. So thank you, Robert, for letting us know. So Brandy, I'm gonna go ahead and unmute you. So please unmute yourself on your side and you should be able to speak.
Okay, hi.
Hi.
Let me go to my comments. I've been kind of holding off because I knew that if I waited, people would answer the questions and that I might bring up, because I've been hearing things from people in the community. I want to thank you guys for the work that you guys are doing on coming up with housing. I know a lot of people. I mean, I've seen so many people out on the streets that have a housing voucher, and they've been waiting and it's been really tough because of the lack of housing available to those with vouchers or those who have lost their housing. So I appreciate that. I appreciate the location because of the fact that, with families, having them closer to the schools, having them closer to resources. I know that there's been concerns about things, have people mentioning about having it be downtown or by the over by Parkway. And certainly, if we can get, for children, it seems more appropriate for children and families. But even in I worked with a elderly woman who who stayed in one of the motels on Parkway. When she got out, used the little bit of money she had to get off the street before we were able to get her into apartments. And it's just, a lot of those places are very remote and it's hard for them to access it. So I appreciate the access, the ability to have access, and I appreciate the green space. And having seen the property just yesterday, going past it and seeing the green space that you have planned for this area. So those are my comments, some of my comments on there, and I appreciate the time that you're taking and the efforts that are going into this. My questions is, I had 2 questions, and one of them, a lot of people answered it, but I did want to see, because I know the biggest concern that people I hear around me voice is regarding management and how well it's managed. And so my initial question that has been answered, or been largely answered, is like how you put on the plans, that it's planned to be maintained clean and safe. So I wanted to get a little bit of detail for those who are concerned about that, about safety issues for the people who are living there as well as those in the community, what the security and whatnot would look like for that, as well as cleanliness. And then the second question is for the residents themselves, what protections, how's management look for them as far as their accessing support as a tenant in your facility? Like, how will they be able to get help for things like repairs or whatever and stuff? I mean, I'm pretty sorry if I'm rambling. I've been thinking about everyone else's comments, so now I'm trying to get my head in it. But I'm fortunate to be with a wonderful property management company where, if we have any concerns, we just have to email or call or, go on an online portal and put in, maintenance needs, and they respond to that. And they've been super, supportive as far as things with COVID, which I know that as far as staying, as far as payments and whatnot, I know that you guys are supportive for that. But what does these things look like as far as how this will be managed for the residents, as how you guys are planning on managing it, as far as them being able to express and have needs like that as a tenant taken care of, as well as my previous question about like a little bit more details on what security would look like to make sure that those inside and outside the facilities are kept safe. And thank you again for answering these questions.
Thank you, Brandy. So Katie, if you can start us off with regard to the management and security piece, and Brad, I know you're on the line, so if you want to jump in there too, that would be great.
Yes, so right now we would be primarily managing the facility, similar to Hacienda, how we do manage the facility there. In regards to security, again, the specific logistics of each detail have not been worked out, but we are committed to identifying the right level of security, and do understand that there is security elements that need to be handled inside the facility, including around the facility. We are committed to being that good neighbor. We don't believe in just pushing people down the sidewalk till they're off our fence. We believe in engaging them and helping them get into the service that they need so that they can just get off the street and not be a nuisance to our neighbors either.
All right, and thank you so much. And so I have, I know Brandy has an additional question, so when she adds it in the chat, I'll go ahead and bring it back up. And let me move on to somebody that's on the call. I do see Miss Silva in there, but let me take this person here that's on the call because we haven't had him speak yet. So if you could please unmute your line. The number is 442-9250. If you could unmute yourself. Again, the number is 442-9250. And I'm asking you to unmute yourself.
I think they have to press *9 again to unmute.
Oh, *9 to unmute. Or not. Let me see. Okay, are you, doesn't look like you're able to unmute yourself. So I'll leave you there and let's see if we can try to unmute yourself. Hold on. Okay, and 442-9250, I'm gonna leave you there to see if you can unmute yourself while I'm gonna take Miss Silva's call. Miss Silva, you are now on the line. If you could unmute yourself, please.
Yes, so I just wanted to comment that if somebody in this call could post that proposal so we all can see in detail what the grant says, because I keep getting confused of what the purpose of this housing will be. So if you guys can please share that so we can all the residents can take a look at it. That will, I think, address more questions that we have right now. Thank you.
Okay, and that would be great. I've actually shared the application previously, and like we discussed earlier, I think there's been changes made to the application based on the state's request. So I'll work with you, Jessica, to try to again, put that application together. It is quite lengthy. I think the last time it was well over 100 pages, but if we could take a portion or even just the whole thing and try to figure out how to post it so that you'll be able to access it, we'll share it. Now, there's many questions that are being asked, and I know AJ's asked a few times. The ability to see those questions, you will have a chance to look at that. I am actually going to copy all of these questions and responses and put them together so that they could be posted with this recording. And once the recording is posted, if there's any questions that come up, individuals will be able to email any of us that are on this call, or even email me and ask for a specific person to respond, and we'll make sure we connect you with that individual. So again, we will be posting this, and you'll have an opportunity to provide additional information, and we'll be sharing information with you as well once we get to all of these questions that have been asked online. So thank you so much. And I see that 442-9250 is now unmuted. So if you can go ahead and ask a question. Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, hi, my name's Naomi Padilla. I just had a little comment, just to tell a little bit of my story. I'm a single mother. I'm permanently living at a temporary housing, which is for a year. I've been able to get a permanent job, full-time job, and I still find it hard. Like, I'm a single mother, I make the income, but according to the laws in Fresno housing, I don't make enough. So I'm coming to an end of my stay here, and once again, I find myself back in the same position, trying to find affordable housing for me and my daughter. It's a little discouraging, but thanks to people that I have in my life helping me stay positive, this program would just benefit so many people, like so many women out here, families out here that are trying to get their life back together and become a member society, have their stable housing for their children. It's very hard. So this program would be so awesome, and just grateful and appreciated by so many people, including myself. Thank you. That's all I had to say.
Thank you for that comment.
Hello?
Go ahead, Brian, we can hear you.
Sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. I just barely heard you right now. Well, thank you for taking the time to put this all together and to take questions, even if the questions have been repeated a few times from people. I just wanted to make a comment. I work at the Downtown Partnership here in Fresno. I'm speaking on my behalf only right now, personally, not professionally. But we've been doing a lot of outreach. I've been doing a lot of outreach within the last few months, and have noticed, obviously, a lot of increase in homelessness and houselessness. And I think that's important to distinguish. It's been talked on a little bit earlier that there is a difference between homeless and houseless, and this project definitely sounds like it's geared more towards homelessness. And when I say that, I mean just people without homes. Houseless is without a roof, without a structure. Homeless is without a place to call your own. And obviously, all are important. I think this is a problem that has a lot of layers and a lot of levels to it, and it's not going anywhere for the immediate future and for the long time future. So it's really encouraging to hear that you guys have multi-year plans in place, and we're able to put those in place for to receive the government funding. And just wrapping up, I think it's important. I think this is very important because ultimately this is good practice to be able to put, number one, to be able to apply, receive government funding, and to put it to good use. I think it proves and builds merit within your organization and our city as a whole, and our county. And I think it's going to allow for, obviously, lessons to be learned along the way, so that we can, for future projects, adapt And, you know, this is something that, like I said, doesn't necessarily dip into the houselessness necessarily, people without structures and without roofs who have been out in the streets for, you know, longer periods of time, and that's okay. Because like I said, there's a lot of different layers to it. This is an important layer because this can prevent a lot of people into drifting into those deep waters that many people do not and are unable to come back from. So I think as a community, I think it's important to support this. I think it's important to educate ourselves on all these things. Like I said, there's a lot of different layers to it. But I just wanted to publicly voice my support, and I really appreciate you guys, and I just encourage you all to continue to take care of yourselves throughout this time as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Brian. Really appreciate it. Okay, so I'm gonna move to Zora. Zora, if you can unmute yourself, you'll be able to speak.
Hello.
Hello.
Can you see me?
I can't see you, and for some reason it's still showing that you're muted, but I can hear you.
Okay. So so I'm actually from Los Angeles, San Diego area. I moved up here about a year ago, and I took over a motel property in Central Valley, so the city of Coalinga. So I reached out today in a random way, but I wanted to go over a little bit of what I've been hearing. And I don't usually share my story, but I think this is an opportunity to do so. I used to run several businesses, but I had a very large vacation rental management company in San Diego. And I would run transactions of over $1 million. I was very highly looked at by Airbnb. I worked with huge organizations, Visit San Diego, Visit California. I was at the top of my game. And for a person that collected houses, I found myself homeless for a year, about 4 years ago. And during that time, it was a 1 year stretch. And I think that I was gifted that opportunity to kind of see things in a different light because I had it all. I could charge anything. I could do it all. But in this moment, I had lost it all, and it was family related. So anyway, for a year, I was looking for jobs and looking for, you know, a place to live. I had to leave my children with their dad because we were separated, so that they could go to school and didn't experience the move around of where I was going and what I was doing. I didn't even know. So during that time, I noticed how hard it is to even get a job. You have to have, you know, insurance, registration. You have to have all these things go in for you. You have to have a background check. You have to have all these things, sometimes a credit check. And then to be able to save the 3 times the rent, to have a credit score, it was impossible, I'll tell you, to get through. And luckily my personality got me to locations where I was able to, I'm just kidding, but I was able to get myself into a place where I was able to rebuild my life. And I'm here now, and running a motel, I have, especially by the 5 freeway, I have experienced something with people that are fleeing their homes because not everybody has a savings. So what the COVID virus did and what this program, Project Homekey, I read the whole thing and I studied the entire RFP. And it is for people that are about to enter into homelessness. This is an opportunity for these people to be caught and saved before they hit rock bottom. And I think this is a beautiful, beautiful thing. And I didn't realize I was going to be on tonight. But the people that have been stopping at my motel have gotten cars taken away from the CHP, who've got everything in that car and it's been taken and it's gone. And I have to house these people, and I've been giving them free night stay because my heart for service and serving the homeless and the displaced families is super, like, it's on point. It's almost so hard because I run the motel to make money, but there's a heart for service for that. Anyway, I was going into that, but I also believe that not only in the city of Fresno, working with my community, I've noticed that our, especially with not having houses, enough employment here in the town, we have to drive very, very far away to have employment opportunities, that our community is also experiencing the COVID-related issues with regards to jobs and housing and things like that. And that's why I'm here this evening as well, not only to support what you're doing, and I think that's fabulous, I think it's awesome and we need more of this, but also to introduce it throughout the entire city county of Fresno, because it needs to be done. There's families that want to work. And if you study the job market, you can see, I study the job market on purpose to see about housing and things like that. The job market right now, for every single job, there's hundreds and hundreds of applicants in the area, and it's a very sad thing. So I think that with regards to the specific grant, you guys, this is an amazing thing that needs to happen, but it needs to happen in a bigger scale, and I'm hoping that rapid, transformation of properties occurs, even in our small town of Coalinga.
Sarah,
Go ahead. I couldn't hear you.
Thank you so much. And it's really odd because I could see that you're there, but for some reason it's showing that you're mute on my side. But thank you so much for sharing that. And this is really, this opportunity that's coming about is really because the state has this funding that they're willing to allocate to the county. So we look at it the same way you do, this opportunity. And we're looking at this specific site. We're talking about the Blackstone site today. But again, the city of Fresno and Housing Authority have applied for different sites. And when we were talking from the beginning of this, it would be great to have, to be able to actually have 300 new locations that are permanent housing for so many people that need it. And this would only be half of that housing. The other half would potentially be that application from the Housing Authority. So although there's obviously the focus is in different locations, there really is a collaboration between us and the Housing Authority and City of Fresno. There's concerns about the locations, and quite frankly, this is very different than anything we've done in the past. And rightfully so, these concerns, especially the fact that it happened so quickly. And so we do appreciate the questions that everybody's asking, and really just an awareness for us of all the concerns that you have so that we can get that information out to you. And the previous caller, I think Ms. Silva, we are going to make more information available. And quite frankly, the information that we provided before the Board of Supervisors is what we had at the time. And as we've moved forward, we've been with the state, and we'll make sure that we continue to share that, especially with all of you here joining us. But we'll find a way again to make it available. It'll likely be through the County of Fresno social media. So again, we'll send a notice out, and hopefully we'll be able to go to the County of Fresno, either Facebook or Instagram is also, we're also on there. You'll be able to look at any of this time and provide comments to us as we go forward. And again, we're still waiting to hear back from the state. So nothing is set in stone just yet. We're still working with the state, meeting the requirements that they have as well. Let me go on to Brandy. Brandy, I see that you're there. Brandy, you should be able to.
Hi, I'm so sorry. I spoke earlier, but I was so flustered that I forgot an entire something I just wanted to comment on, and I want to thank the person who shared before. And if I have any other questions, I also know I can contact you guys, and I appreciate that. I want to add on for those, for you guys and for those who are listening on here that I live nearby. I'm in District 7. I'm just down the street from there, and so I understand the concerns of the neighbors, but I also understand, that I am also have been developing relationships with those who are homeless in the area. And just this past week, I've been sharing with them about these town halls, about things and stuff. And there was a woman before this we even knew about this, who lives, she and her husband, they're elderly and they live by the Motel 6, and people were contacting me and other people to ask if people can take water to them because they see them out by the Walmart and they're concerned about them. I had a chance to chat with her, and they said they basically wait until they get their benefits and then spend a couple days in the motel where she can get a shower, and she's just anxious to find housing. But it's really difficult, you know, being on a limited budget to be able to get into housing. So I'm grateful for opportunities like that for the people, for those out there. I spoke to several people who are our neighbors that are on Blackstone. She's like right next to it. There's another woman who is there with her brother who has health issues, and they are employed by one of the local businesses to help clean up in front of the business, and they keep it clean, and they've been trying to work on solutions for to be able to keep things clean. And there's another man that I spoke to about this who immediately wanted you guys to know that he works in construction, and he would be happy to apply for a job that you guys might have available because he works in construction. So there is a lot of amazing, I know that there's concerns and there's a lot of people with high needs, but there's also a lot of incredible people who had to endure a lot out there because they had to wait outside before they can get housing again. And there's huge waiting periods in this thing. And I am grateful that for the humanization, that not only you guys will be able to support those who are residents here, but we'll be having a support, having a presence there to help those who are out there to get them directed in the right spot. So for assurance for the community, there are a lot of kind people out there that try to help, that have given me stuff when I needed it, just because they thought I needed it, like an apron or an umbrella to keep me cool. And so want to vouch for the person who talked before and other people, that there's a lot of people that I know of who just had, you know, they escaped a slumlord situation or whatever, that just need that help. And I appreciate the help that this is providing. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Brandy. Really appreciate you sharing, and also, especially since you're.
Sonia, your sound is really going in and out, so.
Sorry, it's my Wi-Fi. I apologize for that.
That's better.
I'm sorry. Thank you. Oh, no, I'll try to get closer. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
All right. So there's been quite a few questions I think we've been answering on here. And again, we're going to share this. So so is there anything, you, the panelists, that you want to share so that we can close up? I no longer have any hands up at this point. We are now at 52 attendees. So we went down from 100, and I didn't realize, and neither did our PIO, that we were maxed out at 100. But from what I've seen, some of the questions have been related to what's going on tomorrow. City of Fresno has a town hall scheduled also. That is separate from this. I actually have not been invited. I'm not sure if anybody else on this panel has been invited. So we just wanted to make sure we had the information out to you, especially because we're the ones that submitted the application to the state and are waiting to hear back. But for you, the panelists, is there anything that you've seen on the comments that you might want to address right now? I mean, obviously we're going to address it in writing as well, but if you want to touch on it now, if you want to start, Jessica?
Yeah, it's a little bit following up on that last comment. I think there's been a whole string about kind of what type of homeless are you talking about? And I think some of that is actually legal definition confusion. In our world, there's actually different definitions of homeless. There's street homeless, there's at risk of homeless, there's precariously housed, there's chronically homeless, and those are different definitions. And so that might be why you hear, you know, Jody's in the HUD world and she kind of thinks maybe in one way sometimes and we think another way. For Project Homekey, they expanded it to be the most expansive definition possible, and then even added this language to specifically say, and people particularly impacted by COVID. So kind of like you've been hearing, you know, our neighbors who are unhoused, our neighbors who are at risk of homelessness, and our neighbors who are at risk of homelessness because of COVID. And I just wanted to share that I think it's particularly intense in California. It's in places, you know, I've worked across the country, and it's unlike anything I've ever seen here. We have people who are facing housing risk that's just unprecedented. And so, and now we have people running out of the mountains, and they're going to be facing the same problems. So I think if we can all think about our neighbors in a very broad way and think about that being one paycheck away, one car away from needing help, and think about that definition of homelessness, that precariously housed at risk, and think about what we're trying to do to help those folks. I hope you'll think about that as you leave this tonight and as you share with your neighbors what we're trying to do. Those are my wrap-up thoughts. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Jessica. Jody, anything to wrap up this evening?
No,
You good?
I would just echo what Jessica said. You know, the stereotypes are not what we work with most of the time. So to maybe think in a broader spectrum of what homelessness really means, and it is simply just someone without a place to call home.
I did have one point just to kind of help close up on where the supervisor is on this. Is that okay, Sonia?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I did want to thank everybody on behalf of Supervisor Brandow for coming out tonight. I know this is both a, on one side, a very passionate topic, and on the other side can kind of be a dry, kind of numerical numbers kind of topic. So those of you that stuck it out with us for 2 hours, thank you very much. From where the supervisor approaches this, folks, we have a homelessness problem now. Many of you are reference frequently the problem we see on our streets. That's why you see projects like this, is why we're so committed towards addressing homelessness in Fresno County. And we're not selectivizing one project. This isn't the only project. This is just one of the latest and one of the projects we're really hopeful for in our community. And you're going to hear more about other things that the county is doing as we move forward. If there are any questions for our office or the supervisor that were not answered tonight, if we could bring up that contact slide before we're done tonight, you know, we will make sure that all your questions get answered. We know that there's a lot of concerns and we want to address them. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Wayne and Brad, some comments from you?
Hi, this is Brad. Can everybody hear me? I jumped on my mobile device.
Yes.
Yeah, I just wanted to briefly close it. Just we're very excited about this project, and I know it's unfolded very quickly, and there might be a little bit of confusion with the community, but I just wanted to stand behind the operations that my organization runs, and we take pride in what we do, and we like to have the best product in the neighborhood. And I'm happy to have a conversation with anybody and invite them out to our other properties and keep them informed throughout the whole process and get their feedback so we can work together as being good neighbors.
Okay, thank you, Brad. And I did see, Katie, you're probably seeing it on your end. Mary Haskin did have an additional question there. So what we could do just going forward, Mary, if you could please send a text with that information that you have so that we can make sure that we actually get it out to everybody. The application, I think, came up again. We will post it. I just need to make sure that the size is small enough that we'll be able to share it. So I did post the Instagram and the Facebook for County of Fresno. So that's likely where we're going to share the information. It's managed by our PIO, so he'll be able to provide that to you. This last slide has the information of if you want to reach out to us. There's a phone number for both Supervisor Brandow and myself, and also email addresses on this slide. And then RH Home Builder, I'm sorry, RH Community Builders and Upholdings also has an email. and there's a contact number for RH there. You're always welcome to reach out to us and let us know what you think. And if there's any concerns or comments that you have, we certainly do welcome them. And Mary, I see that your question was whether or not this is the same group that's purchased the old hospital in Kings Canyon. So we'll again gather that information. I don't believe it's the same group. So
No, we are not associated
No,
with
it's
them.
not.
okay. So yeah, so thank you so much, everybody that participated and hung on for this call. There's still 50 of you here with us, and truly appreciate it. Again, you're welcome to contact us. We are available to provide any information that you seek. And again, thank you so much. Have a good night.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.